If you look at the tech-related news from the past 2 years, you can see two main common things: AI and tech layoffs. Seems like everybody forgot about blockchain or NFTs for now. So people are praising AI left and right, saying how much it affects their productivity, design, copywriting. But what about software development, especially our beloved field of mobile apps? Is AI the main reason for all the tech layoffs, or is it just a coincidence? And most importantly, what can and should you do now as a developer? We'll answer all these questions in today's video, so buckle up and let's go. Oh, and if you're new here, my name is Dan. I'm a software engineer with close to 10 years of experience in building mobile apps for startups and big companies, so I've been part of the pre-AI era as well. With that in mind, thinking of how mobile apps were created before, I noticed two main ways in which AI affected mobile app development. The first one is the usage of AI tools to improve the app development process. And the second one is the need to include AI features in today's mobile apps, because everybody wants to have an app with AI today, right? I want an AI to predict how many notes will the user write each month. So let's get into more details on each one of these topics. The first one, using AI tools in the development process. A few months ago, I gave a talk at a tech conference here in Romania exactly on this topic, by building an app using AI tools as much as possible to see where exactly it helps the most, from ideation to design to generating code and also documenting the whole thing. You can watch that talk here. But in this video, we'll focus on the implementation side, because that's what we do the most as developers, especially if we're working in a company or for a client. And on the implementation side, the first try of using such tools was with GitHub Copilot. You probably all know about it. A few developers used it here and there, but you had to register for it, so it didn't become very popular right away. Its main goal was to help you during the implementation process where you're writing code, to help you generate like entire functions or blocks of code, so it can save you time and be your programming companion. But then ChatGPT was released and the whole world went crazy about it. And that's because it was free and it was accessible to anyone, not just for programming and technical stuff, but for your everyday usage and tasks and conversations. And people quickly realized that ChatGPT can also generate code. Of course, it wasn't very good in the beginning and it's not exceptional right now, but it's got better with time. And then the entire conversation of AI replacing developers started to happen. Especially non-technical people were excited about it because they thought now they can build themselves mobile apps and websites and software products in general, which is not as simple as it seems. However, many developers, myself included, started to use ChatGPT here and there and explore on what it's good at and on what topics it can't really help much. And I got some interesting insights talking to other mobile developers and asking them what are they using ChatGPT for. Some of them said for explaining legacy code, so they feed it some code and get explanations about it. Others said they are using it for generating code, especially on the UI side, like generating buttons and fields and adding borders to fields and things they don't do manually anymore. And also for exploring high-level technical approaches like discussing pros and cons of architectures, asking for examples and templates so you can better understand how to implement a certain design pattern. But at the same time, there are a lot of situations where it cannot really help you. The main idea here is that all the hype created some false expectations as well. Non-technical people sometimes consider, oh, you can just ask ChatGPT if you don't know how to do something, but oftentimes it's not returning any useful result or correct result. And also developers might overestimate what they can do with it, and then realizing while working on a project that it's not as useful as they thought. So basically, ChatGPT and all the other tools like Gemini became useful for developers in their work. And as I said, depending on what project you're working on, everybody uses it in their own way. But it does help you in a way or another. Now, the next level for that is to have these assistants integrated into our IDEs, and that started to happen already. I mean, GitHub Copilot is already integrated in Visual Studio Code for a long while. We have Gemini in Android Studio, and finally on iOS, because iOS is always the last one at such things. In Xcode 16, which is now in beta and it's gonna be released soon, we will have predictive code completion. Thank you, Apple. I mean, you could do some hacks before to use Copilot by copy-pasting your code from Visual Studio to Xcode or with some plugin, but 99% of iOS developers who I've talked to didn't really use that. So how does all of this affect mobile app developers? Well, on one side, it creates high expectations, people expecting them to deliver faster and work faster. but sometimes if you're not careful, you can be led on a path that right now seems good, but
sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
In the long term might affect the quality of the entire project. Then some mixed feelings among junior developers, because on one side you can think, oh, they can be faster now because they have a helping hand with writing code, but at the same time, without having the experience, it's hard for them to understand what part of that code is good, what implications it will have on the project going forward. So maybe you get a very suboptimal solution from ChatGPT, you see it works and you use it right away, but then you don't sit and analyze like, how will this scale? How will this be reused in the future on the project? It's a bit difficult to evaluate what these AI tools help you with if you don't have experience in building apps on your own without them. And of course, the next level to that is non-technical people wanting to build like websites and apps, succeeding at first because to create something simple, it's quite straightforward and you can see that it works. As that product grows, then you start to hit some roadblocks and some problems that you need a developer for, or multiple developers. So yeah, I rambled quite a bit, but what you need to remember is that these tools are part of our development process now. They can't really build an app on their own, and you still need the technical skills to understand how to use them. But at the same time, it's worth trying to see where to use them and how can they improve your workflows. Now for the second part, including AI features in the apps you're working on. You probably had at least one request by now for some kind of AI feature like this. So I have this note-taking app and I want an AI feature to predict how many notes will the user write every month. But you don't need AI for that. You just need to count the notes from the past and make an average and you can predict future notes without any problem. No, but it needs to have some AI in it. Everybody's using AI now. Okay, let's do it with AI. Some popular examples are chatbots and virtual assistants. If you go on a lot of websites or even in apps for banking or medical services, there's a big chance you have a chatbot to chat with, at least initially, until you realize it's not really helpful. But yeah, chatbots and virtual assistants in apps and websites, so they don't have to keep people online all the time. Then image recognition and object detection. This is actually a very interesting one because it also leverages your phone's camera and then you can use it for all sorts of use cases, like scanning products in a factory or scan a plant and it automatically tells you what it is and how you need to take care of it. Or you can scan some cars or bikes that you like and you don't really know what's the model and more technical stuff about them. So you can really get creative with this type of feature. And another one would be personalized recommendations. This can apply to apps like Netflix to recommend you shows that you might like, or even in shopping apps so they can make you buy more stuff from them. You don't always need AI for this type of functionality, but people like to have AI as a label when describing their app or their product in general. The three main AI fields that are used in mobile app development are machine learning, computer vision, and natural language processing. Wow, so many buzzwords. Alright. Machine learning is computers learning to do something without explicitly programming them to do so. Computer vision is analyzing images and videos and extracting information from them. And natural language processing is understanding text and voice in a similar way that humans do. And all these can be done either through an API, so your mobile app sends data and receives information about it, or it can be done on device. And that's the truly specific AI thing on mobile, because then you don't need any server or API, you can have all of this on your phone in your app. You might wonder, how is that possible? Well, we have native frameworks on both iOS and Android for this kind of functionality, like CoreML, MLKit, or TensorFlow. I have some examples for all of these in the presentation I told you about, and I'll link it at the end of the video as well. So what you need to know here is that you might be asked to implement something AI related in your mobile app, and you have to be prepared for that. How to do this? In two main steps. First, you need to understand the theory behind it, so you need to read some more about machine learning and computer vision, just so you get the general picture. Don't go very deep into details until you actually need that, because you will forget it if you will not use it for 6 months and in 6 months someone comes and says, oh, please implement object detection for me in this app. Well, I read about it 6 months ago, but yeah, just understand the general theory so you know what you're talking about, and when you actually need to implement it, then look into more details. However, what might be helpful is the second step, which is to build some kind of personal app, very small, just to try these features out. And it's not that difficult because you can find examples online, even official examples from Apple and Google. You can download them and run them locally on your device. Maybe you need to update the syntax depending on if they update it or not. But then you have a starting point and you can slowly try to customize that, like replacing the model with another one. If you find an example for an app that detects fruits and vegetables, you can look to replace that model with something that detects animals and see if you can make it work. The thing is, you need to understand these concepts so you can talk to clients or colleagues about them, and you need to know how to implement them. Not right now until you need them, but you need to have an idea and to be able to do the research and implement them eventually, because the demand for such features will just increase over time. So, a bit of a recap. How did AI affect mobile app development? You now have tools that you can use when building apps that can help you understand the code better, generating more code. So in order to stay relevant in the field, it's important to get used to these tools and deliberately try to use them in your workflows. Even if you know how to do something, just try ChatGPT or another tool that's free and see how close it is to what you would build and how fast it does it. So then you can evaluate, oh, it gave me 80% of the code and I still needed to write the remaining 20% to fix what it gave me, but it did so in 30 seconds, and then I spent 1 hour fixing and adding the remainings compared to building it myself from scratch in 3 hours. That can be an example. It's just like when you start practicing a new sport or a new activity. At first you need to intentionally do the movements, thinking consciously about them, until it becomes second nature. For example, I'm playing tennis, and even if I can hit the ball but I don't have the correct swing, I need to go and practice the correct swing intentionally multiple times until I get used to it, so then having the correct swing will help me play even better. You can still build apps without any AI tools today, but you don't want to be 2 steps behind other people who learn how to use them and what to use them for. So yeah, try to deliberately use such AI tools, and over time you'll understand how they can help you and where it makes sense to do everything on your own. Then for the second part, implementing AI functionalities in your apps, you need to first understand the theory and then try some small examples on the side in a weekend. You'll get ahead of 90% of people just by investing a few hours into this. And later, when someone comes to you and says, I want to build an app that recognizes what I eat and calculates my calories and everything, you're not just like, oh, it's impossible. You at least know a couple of ways to approach this. So, before you go, this is a song actually. There's one more question from the beginning of the video that we need to answer. And that is, did AI cause all these tech layoffs in the past 2 years? In my opinion, for the most part, no. And here's why. You could argue that some companies implemented AI tools and more automation to replace some of the people they had in the tech area. But actually, after all the economical growth during the pandemic, especially in the second half, too many tech companies hired like crazy, not only employees, but also contractors and freelancers. So they wanted to grow, to expand, to build stuff, and they hired a lot of people. They expected a bigger growth than they actually had. And after a while, they realized, oh, we don't have the growth that we expected, so now we can't pay everyone. So then keeping all the people was not sustainable. And then it became kind of a norm to cut costs and to reduce expenses. And for a software company, the people are the ones who bring value, but are also like the highest expense because you need to pay their salaries. So this is a whole nother talk. We won't squeeze it in here. But in my opinion, part of it was caused by AI and things that AI tools could replace, but a big part of it was just due to economics and other such factors. And now, with all the AI tools getting better and more popular, is there any hope for new developers entering the field? Is there enough space and demand for new people to join the tech field and to become developers? That's again a big topic that will have its own video in the future. So if you're interested, subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. If you want to see an example of building an app with AI tools as much as possible, you need to check the talk that I was mentioning in the beginning, where I went through all the stages from idea to design, implementation, and documenting everything. And I also integrated an object detection feature in the app, so you can see that in the presentation as well. Just make sure to turn on the captions because there was some echo in the room and the audio might not be the best, but I manually added captions for the entire video, so you should be good to go. Alright, I hope you found this helpful and you're not panicking about AI. It can really be your friend, not your enemy. Just make sure to get friends with it as soon as possible. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.